Hello, friends and neighbors. I'm Ray Harwood, and I'm your host here for the Time Zone Report. I've got the text of all three bills that are in the U.S. Congress relating to daylight saving time, and I'm going to tell you what they say. Stay tuned. What we've got up on the screen there, Time Zone Report as it currently sits. If you click on the My Analysis of Current U.S. Bills, you'll see text and some links there, both to the three bills, information about the three bills, and I also have two PDF files that describe and show what the effect of those bills are going to be on current United States code that relates to daylight saving time and standard time. I'll put a link to this article down in the description. You can go read that, but I'm going to basically tell you everything that's in that article here. Go back to that if you need a refresher. So as a reminder, we do have the search phrase, basically, which will take you up to Congress.gov and show you the three bills that are related to daylight saving time up there. And this is basically where I'm getting all of my information from. Let's hop over here to H.R. 1556, which is a companion bill to Senate Bill 670. Basically, they both have the same text in them. Both basically accomplish the same thing. If you look on my website, timezonereport.com, and if you look at the post over on timezonereport.com, I've got a link to an article that basically explains companion bills and how they work. So over here to H.R. 1556, you can see the text, and this was released sometime before the PDF version. Basically, if you click on that, you'll see the PDF version, the Sunshine Protection Act of 2019. This has a very Florida flavor to it. That's what they were calling their bills when they were trying to do this down in the state of Florida. Section 2 basically repeals the temporary period for daylight saving time. In other words, it completely eliminates 15 U.S. Code 260A, which is the part that talks about daylight saving time. It just gets rid of it. And then the section that then revises the U.S. Code, Section 261, says where the code says 5 hours, we're going to make it 4 hours. Where is it 5 hours? In the description of Eastern Time, 5 hours off of GMT. And they're going to make that 4 hours off of GMT, which is essentially what happens when the Eastern Time Zone goes on daylight saving time. And so all of this text down in here basically is completely designed to basically put all of the time zones ahead an hour, spring forward, the same as going on to daylight saving time, but just do it permanently. Let's get rid of daylight saving time and just move everything over 1 hour earlier, all year round. Now I'm working on a graphic that will show the effect of that. We know what the effect of that is in the summer months, but what's the effect of that in the winter months? And I'll have a good graphic for you there, hopefully in about a week or so, working on that on the side. So a couple of other things in here that do allow, for example, the state of Arizona, where I live, state of Hawaii, that do not do daylight saving time, allows them to continue to be not on this advanced time. And the actual verbiage of that, I think, has a little bit of work that probably needs to be added. But basically that provision is there. Here's where we have the 5 co-sponsors, 4 of them from the state of Florida, 1 from the state of California. And any other information you want to see, the committees, the actions that have been done, those sorts of things available right there. Back over to Senate Bill 670. Again, as I mentioned, it has the same text, different co-sponsors. Obviously, this is over in the Senate, and 1 senator from Florida, 1 from Oregon. But the same basic information here as there is for H.R. 1556. We'll go over to H.R. 1601. This particular bill is different than the other two. This one does not have a companion bill over in the Senate. And if we click here on the text and click here on the PDF, we can see that this bill, it's a little shorter. The act is called the Daylight Act. Pretty simple. This 15 U.S. Code 260 area here basically says they're going to insert or may by law apply the advancement of time described in this section for the duration of the year. This, my friends, is basically year-round daylight saving time. The difference here, though, is that rather than doing it for all of the states and all of the time zones, with the exception of, for example, Arizona and Hawaii, they're going to allow states across the country to elect to observe daylight saving time year-round. I mentioned before, I'm putting together a couple of graphics. I'll have another graphic basically that will show the impact of this particular bill. Suppose you have this sort of hopscotch effect of some states go to year-round daylight saving time and others decide, no, we don't want to do that. Now we're going to have, it wouldn't necessarily be chaos, but it would certainly be confusing to the average traveler. And airlines, for example, they understand how to deal with Hawaii and Arizona now because they've been doing it for years. And we don't do daylight saving time. So when the rest of the country goes to daylight saving time, they adjust the times in our two states. If states can now start to elect to be on year-round daylight saving time, let's say the first year this is enacted, if it's enacted, 2 or 3 states decide to do this. Florida will probably be one of the first. Maybe Alabama, Mississippi. They're big year-round daylight saving time fans down there and want to do this pretty bad, apparently. But then suppose a couple of other states decide in another year or two, hey, we're going to do this too. And so now things will be changing sort of willy-nilly, if you will. That's a term I don't get to use very often. It will certainly create some confusion. And one of the other things that a number of people who have been following the time zone report over the last several years have said, what we really don't want is for state legislators to decide we're going to make a change like this just before the daylight saving time starts. If they do that, it doesn't really give companies time to make changes that are necessary in order to cope with it. Airline travel could be disrupted because the actual time changes involved, and these take considerable amount of time for the airlines to plan and publish and integrate into their schedules. Arizona and Hawaii, they've been doing it for years. They understand how to do that. But now let's say, Florida and Mississippi and Alabama do it, and now all of a sudden Texas decides to do it. Okay, how many flights in and out of Texas? Good bit of flights in and out of Texas. Tennessee, maybe not so many flights in and out of Tennessee. So now suppose, Chicago, Illinois, if one of those major airport areas, decides to go on the year-round daylight saving time, could really kind of throw people for a loop. Personally, my own particular opinion on this is that H.R. 1601 is probably a bad idea. It gives states the option, which is a good thing, but it has the potential for creating a certain amount of chaos. The provisions that are over in the other two bills, H.R. 1556 and S. 670, to kind of do this all at once and sort of get it over with, there'll be some pain, but it'll be one-time pain. And from there, everything will kind of be normal from there. Whatever normal becomes, it will be there. So that's my recommendation, really, is that if we're going to pass something, and I'm not necessarily on board with these two, but I'm leaning toward it, these two could make it. The other one, I don't think it's going to be a good idea. So I'm going to put some links down below that will take you over to my website, and also, to the 2 documents that I have that actually show the changes to the bills. Let me show you some of those now. So here I have the document up, the effect of H.R. 1556. And Basically, I've got a section that's background here, and a link to the bill, and a brief description of what I think the bill is going to do. And then down below here, I actually have the text of the 15 U.S. Code 260 through 264. And basically, again, this H.R. 1556, and now that the Senate Bill 670 has come in, the same text, would basically, as you can see, get rid of Section 260A, which describes the ability of a state to basically opt out or exempt itself from the provisions of daylight saving time. In 261, they talk about the first standard time zone, the second standard time zone, and they actually do refer to the first standard time zone for those of you who are thinking it's the Eastern time zone. Now, they actually do refer to the Atlantic time zone, even though technically the United States, nobody actually observes Atlantic time. But that provision is there. And so they're basically making each of these 1 hour different. Then down here in section B, this is a section that is added. Basically, they're saying that the standard time for a state that has exempted itself as in effect on the day before the date of the enactment of the Sunshine Protection Act of 2019, which is this particular bill, basically will stay on that particular standard time once it has changed. So basically, this is the part that sort of has the provision for Hawaii and Arizona. And as I've mentioned before, there are a couple of small corners of a few states where the Department of Transportation has permitted them to change their time zone, typically for something as small as a county that's down in the corner of a state. That's my analysis, and time will tell. Will these make any progress? I don't know. I'm going to be following it, and I'm also starting to take another look at the bills that are in the various states around the country, and working on a map for that as well. So I've got a few graphics that hopefully will come out in the next week or two, and we'll have some exciting things to look at here on the Time Zone Report. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Look for us in another week or so when I have another update.